Good morning, everybody. Kat here. Welcome to the channel. It is Friday morning, and we've got some interesting news that could send the Markles scrambling. That's right. Yesterday here in Canada, it was announced yesterday afternoon that previous former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney had died at the age of, I believe, 84 years old. Yeah, he had been Prime Minister here in Canada between the years of 1984 and 1993. And you might say, what's that got to do with anything? Well, a lot, actually. First and foremost, just in terms of general royal protocol, Canada is the largest Commonwealth country and has always had very close ties with Britain. And in the case of something like this, where a former prime minister dies, the royal family always sends a representative to the funeral, which hasn't been announced yet, by the way. This only just happened less than 12 hours ago. But yeah, they always send someone. And, like it might be Sophie or Edward or both of them or Princess Anne. The king wouldn't attend funerals, but somebody else, another member of the royal family, a lot of the time would go in the stead, especially at state funerals, heads of state and things like this. So that's one element. Who's gonna go? Now, this is a whole spider web, and I bet you Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have been on the phone since yesterday afternoon. 'Cause here's the thing. Prime Minister Mulroney is survived, of course, by his wife and his 2 adult children, one of whom is Ben Mulroney. Well, who's Ben Mulroney? He's the husband of Jessica Mulroney. At one time, Meghan's bestie, her stylist. They were thick as thieves when Meghan was in Toronto doing suits. We all remember at Meghan and Harry's wedding, Jessica was there. Her daughter was one of the little flower girls. The whole tights and bullying Charlotte and that whole thing. And Jessica was a part of it. And they were very good friends. Well, then what ended up happening was Jessica got into a real mess online with another Canadian influencer who happened to be black, and I can't even remember now what the hell was said, but Jessica said something that highly offended this person, and she made a big stink about it online. And it resulted in Ben and Jessica losing big time, losing status, losing work. Ben had been a presenter on, I think it was ET Canada, Entertainment Tonight. He was, a host of an entertainment weekly, nightly show. And he would do some red carpet stuff and things like that. And then we know Jessica was on the board of a charity that I think was started by her family. They're quite wealthy and renowned in their own right here in Canada. The head of Brown Shoes, a shoe line, shoe stores, amongst other business ventures. But yeah, she had to step down from her board. She had, as a stylist and so forth, she would have regular spots on different daytime programs in Canada and in the States, I believe, too. And her own show was in the works, some wedding show that she was gonna host, sort of some I think kind of a reality kind of a thing. Anyway, that was in the works. She lost everything. Sponsors dried up, work dried up. Well, now it's been a few years, and she's kind of back. Still keeping a bit of a low profile, but I think she's back into fashion again, and I think she's getting some work again. We've seen things on X, Twitter, that, she's made veiled little stabs that we think MEGHAN, like, oh, look what Jessica wrote, maybe is that a little stab at. So we don't know, but they've gone from a relationship that was very, very close and very, very useful for MEGHAN to MEGHAN completely markling her and just having nothing to do with her. When she got into trouble, MEGHAN dropped her like a rock. Now, this is really interesting because they're trying to rebrand. And look, going to Jamaica, being seen with the Prime Minister of Jamaica, who is not a monarchist, by the way. Harry's work with the Aspen Institute and things, and trying to, meddling in American politics. Then we see just recently, when they were up in Canada at Whistler in BC for the year out, looking forward little program for Invictus next year, Harry also made time to meet with First Nations leaders. Those are our Indigenous people, what Americans call Native Americans. So he met with them and had discussions a lot regarding this whole issue of the residential schools. And I mean, look it up. It's way too long for even just hardly a mention here. But yeah, and like he was acting in some way for the royal family. He's like speaking to them and saying, we'll continue this. I'll be here for you. Like, who the hell are you? He was not, we assume, directed by the royal family to hold any such discussions or take any kind of a role in Canadian politics. But now we know, in the last while, that Harry's, mentioned to friends that, he could be Viceroy of Canada, acting on behalf of the crown, and maybe the Queen is gone now. She absolutely refused the whole half in, half out kind of thing. Now they're just carrying on like since she died, like they got it in. Like, what are you gonna do? We'll just do what we want anyway. Watch what we're gonna do. And to be fair, the palace hasn't come out and told them to stop, hasn't put the kibosh on their behavior or their activities, hasn't come out and said definitively, you are not part of the royal machine anymore, you are not acting on our behalf, you have no authority to do these kinds of things. They're trying to set themselves up as, I don't know, North American royals, or like a whole new royal family. So it's bizarre in the least, but with everything going on at home with the royal family, nobody's stopped and really looked at what's going on. And now I think we have an interesting, this funeral is going to give us big clues as to what's going on. Because like I said before, a funeral of this type, a state funeral for a previous prime minister, would be something worthy for a member of the royal family to attend, not unusual. You know, and like I said, it could be Sophie, Edward, both of them. It could be Anne. You know, they wouldn't send Andrew, not because of his reputation now, you know. So it would have to be one of those three. Camilla wouldn't come. It wouldn't be the king or the queen. They don't attend these funerals, really. They would send somebody else. So, what do we got? Who might go? I'm thinking probably Anne or Edward or Sophie. I mean, well, that's really, good grief, that's our only choices. They're not going to send the Duke of Gloucester, 89-year-old man, halfway across the world to attend a, you know, so there you go. But now here's the thing. Harry's bucking for a position. Meghan's got a history, although she may, in a manipulative way, send a note to Jessica, oh, so sorry for your loss. I wish I could, you know, be there for you, do something. It wouldn't be beyond her to do it. And Harry, this is like the perfect opportunity for him to call the palace and say, look, I'm already here. I'm, you know, well, it's going to be in Ottawa, so halfway across the country, really from there, but still less than having to send one of the royal family over to North America, over to Ottawa for the funeral. So Harry might just say, look, you know, I'll go. He might make a bid for it. And this is what this is. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear in the media in the next couple of days, like this morning, the news really hasn't hit Britain. I looked online. I checked a couple of news programs live, and they weren't saying anything about it. But I would imagine within the next 24 hours, it will hit the news in Britain, because there will have to be a decision made of who they're going to send. And I bet you Harry, he's looking for a way to get back in, right? And if he and Meghan can be there because there will be all kinds of world leaders there. This is going to be a huge event. So being seen there, even just being seen there, will be huge to them. Huge acknowledgement of the position of themselves they hold in their crazy heads, you know. And Meghan, you might say, well, Jessica and her dad, and she won't want her there, and what are you going to do? If it's a case of sort of a half-in, half-out state thing, and Harry wangles his way in, and they go to the funeral, wow, wouldn't that be an opportunity for Meghan to just snub Jessica at her father's funeral? Meghan's not beyond that. You know, I hope they don't end up going. I hope we don't see these kind of crazy antics. But I tell you, I wouldn't be surprised, because this is like a golden opportunity for them to be on the world stage again. This is a golden opportunity for when the royal family is in a bit of a pinch right now. Harry could jump in and say, see, look, I can do this. I can do this for you. And if they allow him to do it, or if he gets his foot in the door another way, wow. They just keep rolling on. I mean, it's all a facade. We know this. But public perception is half the battle. I mean, the Queen even said we have to be seen to be believed. And this has been Meghan's MO all along. Like, if you say something long enough, people will believe it. If you act in a royal representative kind of fashion, people are going to assume that you have been granted that role, accepted in that role. And that's half the battle, is the perception. So, just my opinion, but I bet you her and Harry are scheming right now. The phone is going off. They are scheming. How do we get an in? How do we get to this funeral? How do we get an invite to this funeral? It's world stage, baby. World stage. He can act as Viceroy of Canada again. You know? Meghan can give a big F you to Jessica. Like, I don't care if it's your dad's funeral. Look at me. And I'm a duchess. I wouldn't put it past her. I wouldn't put it past her. But this is going to be really interesting to watch over the next couple of days, because once the news starts filtering through in the British press, I can guarantee, I mean, I don't know, I have no insider information whatsoever, just my instinct, but I think we're going to start hearing about who might go, and we're going to start hearing that Harry is offered his services. You betcha. I think this is what's going to happen. It's going to be an interesting week as we see what develops over this, and what might be said, and what might be settled. So that's something to watch for. Have a great day, everybody. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you in the next one. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I want to hear what you have to say. Have a great day. Bye-bye.